The only one that I didn't really experience as being part of the family is Edwin.
Yeah.
Because by the time
well, he was gone so
yeah.
soon.
Yeah, he was
when
gone.
You were young.
Yeah. So that
by the time you were 3 years old, Edwin was married.
Yeah. We were talking about the wedding this afternoon. The old classic where I said, "There's Lloyd."
Lloyd.
Yeah, I always think about the way we were positioned at the table.
Oh, yeah.
And it was different in the kitchen than it was in the dining room.
Yeah, I remember mostly the kitchen because that's where we were most of the time.
Yeah, that's right. And the dining room was when we had company.
That's right. We were just...
That was a Sunday event. Or if we did have company in the evening.
Yeah.
And let's see, I sat at my dad's right.
Yeah.
Mother around the corner to my right. And then around the corner to her right was you, and then to your right was Lyle, and then around his right, around the corner was Eva May, and then Lloyd.
Oh, I thought it was Lloyd first and then Eva.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, that's right, Lloyd and then Eva. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that went on for quite a while. Never occurred to me to try to figure out how they arrived at that configuration.
I can remember you'd always take the salt and shake it all over your stuff. We used to ask you, "What are you doing that for?" And you said, "Because it cools it off."
Oh, that's right, yeah. I had the illusion somehow or another that salt had a cooling quality to it.
When I was a kid, I had to learn to cut that pie in 7 pieces.
Yeah.
And I had to get them straight.
Yeah.
And I had to divide out our pudding, too. And that had to all be even. Because there was always somebody looking to see who got the most.
Yeah.
And one day Alvin says, "Nellie got more than I did." And Dad says, "Well, that's all right. We'll just trade dishes." And then you said, "Oh, no, I haven't got as much as she's got." So that's the way we did it.
You don't remember the one classic event when I was still in the high chair. I had some vivid memory of this.
About the raisins?
Yeah. I was going to have raisins for dessert.
And pull raisins out of your pocket.
Of course, the raisins, unfortunately, were the result of the fact that we had sheep in the front orchard. And my Mother emptied my pockets right then and there, and right on the floor, and then swept everything out. Of course, the classic question that the families always asked was, how many of those I probably really did eat.
Yeah, we wondered about that.
Now, let's see. You started the high school what year?
I think it was 25.
Edmund graduated in 22 from high school.
Yeah, I think it was 25.
Yeah. And so that you would have finished grade school out at Evergreen Valley, District Number 3, about the time that the old school building was
torn
down and the new school was built. Did you get to go in the new school, though?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Oh, you did spend a little time in it?
I was there. I don't know for how long.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we went.
Do you remember some of your teachers?
Bruce Richardson and Grace Winters and Elva Whitnable and Ursa Ray.
Okay.
And I don't know. I can't remember what my...
Well, you named some of the same ones that Lloyd named, so that would figure too. Because you and he would have been, what?
We were together. When Lloyd started school a year ahead of me. And then after he was in school for a couple or 3 years, they put him in my class, or I back in his class. I don't know what happened.
Uh-huh.
So that's not a good feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet, come think of it, yeah, that was a bit demeaning there for the next,
I didn't graduate. It was just, I had hard work. When I'd come home from school, there was a big basket of laundry sitting there waiting for me. Mother couldn't do it all. There was sewing. We had to sew in those days because you didn't go buy clothes. And I had to do the dishes and help with the supper and baking.
Sure.
And I always said, well, why can't I study when the rest of the kids are studying? Well, maybe I had to go out more as a separator. There just was always too many things.
Well, yeah, and you were first girl, and by that time, of course, Edwin and I are discussing the fact that there actually were, three boys, and a girl, and then boy.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I can see that this sharing of the some of the home tasks. Now, we were talking about the fact that both Edwin and Lloyd stayed out of school some of the time in heavy work seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But he said then when they go back to school, you have to make that up.
Oh, yeah. There was no getting out of that. And I used to work. I don't think I ever stayed out of school, but I did an awful lot of field work. I can remember going up to Ruby Whitcomb's home. I used to help when Guy needed help up there. I'd often help. And I'd go up there and serve the men. I'd been out in the field working right alongside of them. And I'd serve the men. And then Ruby and I would eat our dinner. And the men would lay out in the yard. And I'd help her with the dishes.
Do the dishes, yeah.
So that was the rest I got. That's the consideration that women had. That they had for women. They were just there.
That's an interesting observation because as I think back on it, that was true also as it related to the question of whether or not the girls should go to college.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Why should they go to college? They're going
to get married anyway. That's the difference.
And you don't have to go to college to get married.
I wanted to be a nurse. That's the thing I always wanted. I never had even a ghost of a chance.
Yeah. I'm not aware of that. You never did work as an LPN or anything like that, like Aunt Min?
Well, I've taken care of some folks.
Yeah.
Several times I have. I took care of an old lady, elderly lady, out in Deerfield. It was really bad. I don't know, I don't remember what was wrong with her, but her legs would just be great big in the morning when I'd get there. I'd give her bath in the shower. I just took care of her bodily. And then I would rub her legs, and by the time I'd get through with them, they were just back to normal. But then that only lasted till morning, and then they were all swelled up again.
Now, while we're sitting down here talking like this, we're aware of the fact, too, that Oscar is in the hospital and has been in the hospital in a nursing home. For how long a period now?
Since November 15th, 1985.
Yeah.
Because he's been there all of 86.
Yeah. And that he is...
he doesn't know me. He's complete invalid. He has to be fed. And
it's never been diagnosed as such as Alzheimer's disease, has it?
Well, yeah, that's what they say it is.
Yeah, that's what. Sometimes by the time this came along, it was pretty evident that it was something of that, certainly of that nature.
This is Mother's dress.
Oh, is that the one that? Yeah, I remember that.
And I've wore it ever since she died.
Uh-huh.
I've kept it. It stopped a couple of times, and I've had it fixed and kept it up, had it taken it, and had it cleaned, and still have it.
Good. I remember that was something that she wanted for many, many years, and I'm trying to think at what point in her life.
Oh, I don't know. What was she didn't have it too long.
No, it was later on in life that she got it.
She was so thrilled over it.
So I recall you had a white gold watch, didn't you? A wristwatch? Yeah.
I think it's still working.
Yeah.
I always take, when they stop, then I take them up and have them fixed. The jeweler does a good job. Not too
they can
expensive.
keep a good watch. They can keep it going. That's interesting too. We'll talk about watches, and that was that in our youth, there was a great deal of value placed on a good watch, particularly as a graduation gift.
Right.
So that I suppose probably all of the members of our family would have gotten a watch for graduation and probably still have that watch.
Well, one thing I can say too, I was married in 1937, and I moved to Deerfield, Illinois, and I lived there for 34 years. And then we came back here, and we built a new house, 416 East Main Street in Fredericksburg, and that's where I am yet.
When did we have the groundbreaking for your house here in Fredericksburg?
Oh, it was...
I remember the event. Fact is, I have pictures of it.
I do too. I can't... It must have been 1970.
Yeah, somewhere.
I think so.
Yeah. That's kind of interesting too. Of course, I remember vividly. It was such a nice experience for me to come out to Deerfield because I was in the downtown, or really in the inner city of Chicago during the time I was there, both in the summer of 1940, and then later when Evelyn and I came back to go to Bethany, and that was.
Then the kids enjoyed coming when you got your family.
Yeah, right.
We've got a picture of the kids standing there, and Jay had the bag of lunch. He always saw to it that if there were any sandwiches or anything, he was carrying.
Yeah, that's right.
So he had a bag of lunch.
Yeah, that was food. In fact, it still is kind of. Jay was very much interested in going into culinary arts and becoming a chef. He's currently he's a very good cook, and he enjoys doing the cooking. In fact, all of my boys are good cooks.
Bob likes to cook. He's more for doing the meat dishes, but after dinner at night, Ruthie's always tired, and he always says, "Well, you gals get out of here now. This is my job." He cleans up the kitchen.
Oh, that's neat. That's kind of a reversal from what you experienced back in the old thrashing room days.
Oh, yes, I really appreciate it.
Things have changed.
Yeah, that's right.
One of the interesting things that we were mentioning was the fact that when she was younger, somehow or another, the status of womanhood had not necessarily been highly elevated in terms of the amount of the workload. How was it, especially the thrashing ring? You'd go and you'd help cook, and then while the guys were laying out in the backyard resting for a little while then you would be in washing dishes and so forth.
I know that's the way it was when I lived up at New Hampton. Went out and picked corn with the men by hand. Then go in the house, help get dinner, and then wash the dishes, and go out and pick corn again.
So that there was some expectation of you to fulfill both roles. Yeah. I talked with Lloyd and Lyle and good bit about some of the things that, particularly relating to school. Of course, you and I, you were a teacher. And I was interested in reading your little resume that you did for your high school class 50th anniversary.
Did you like that?
Very good. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, according to what I read in that, you have a boyfriend, too.
Oh, yeah.
Then when I was reading somebody else's, I surmised that he had a girlfriend.
Well, he wrote his first. And I thought, well, if he could admit anything more than I would.
But back in those days, you were involved in when you taught school. You were janitress, or janitor, as the case might be. You shoveled the snow off the walks unless you could get some of the big boys to do it.
And I knew how to bank a fire so it would last from Friday night to Monday morning.
Monday morning. Friday night to Monday morning.
Well, there'd still be red coals. You probably couldn't start a fire with it. But
yeah.
First thing I'd do when I get to school, I'd throw all the windows open and then I'd go and start the fire.
Uh-huh.
Why did you open the window?
Well, because of fresh air will heat faster than, I guess that was the...
Oh, yeah. In other words, the oxygen had been somewhat depleted in the building.
One thing I did, too, was I was in 4-H work a lot.
Yeah.
For 10 years. Martha Mushmeyer and I.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. Eva, you did quite a lot of 4-H work, too.
Oh, I did some, but I was never in it like Nellie.
Yeah, and Lloyd, of course, was... Yeah, I remember that everybody was sure that I should be a 4-H'er, too. But back in those days, 4-H is quite different now. Because nowadays, 4-H is much broader in range than it was back in those days.
But I learned how to sew. I can still sew.
I would imagine that just a lot of some of the educational background that young people had in that day and time was really
a lot of it came from that.
Yeah.
Well, I learned to sew too, but I don't know where I got most of my education on that. I think in high school.
Yeah.
But I know Nellie made. I remember a jumper she made for me out of an old coat of mother's.
Uh-huh.
And different dresses.
Yeah. One thing I remember about 4-H that I appreciated, one of you, and I'm not just who it was in a class of musical appreciation. And they had the old portable phonograph. In fact, that was at our house quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably, we liked it and used it more than anybody else. So I was always playing those 78 records. And they had some of the good old classic things on it.
We had one opera that was the whole opera on some records.
Yeah. I believe it was I Dreamt I Dwelt in Marble Halls, the Bohemian Girl.
That's what it was.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, I remember that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing, and Nellie said that, now, in your time, Nellie, did we take part in the, we had the three churches, the Lewiston church in Minnesota and Preston, and then our church had a sub-district, the conferences together, and that was always kind of a big annual event.
Yeah.
Did you get to take part in that? And Eva, of course, I remember. We still have pictures of our group. Yeah, that I remember that with some fondness. The other thing I've mentioned to Lyle too. We were talking about playing volleyball.
Yeah. We had the net up down in the orchard, and had a light down there, and there was the kids from the Peace Church would come out, and the Baptist Church, and we'd have they'd play volleyball out there.
Well, monthly, the young people of the church met once a month.
Mm-hmm.
Went from house to house, as I recall.
Right.
And that was always kind of a big event.
And Lyle played volleyball too.
Oh, yeah.
He sure did. He was right in it.
Well, eventually then we graduated over to the church and we had our own volleyball lot there. And I think maybe that might even been about the time then, Nellie, that you were married and left the community. And we used some old oil cans and made reflectors for the lights. And then we had Edwin's generator. We would go out and Lloyd and I were talking about this. We always remembered or knew when to stop because the old motor would run out of gas. And we'd have to go home.
And we used to play baseball too, and Lyle would play, and he'd go like everything with his crutches, and he'd throw them and slide.
Oh, I slide. Yeah, out in our front yard, we would do that.
Well, it's cool too.
Yeah. The thing in our front yard that I never could figure out was how whenever I would slide like that, I'd come up with gravel under my skin. He never did. He could just take a belly flop and slide right under the ball. You couldn't cross him out because he'd always get under the ball.
I've often thought, I wonder if Lyle's affliction didn't make our family a lot closer than what it might have been.
Well, I've had a lot of comments from people over the years, about our family because of relating to that very thing.
Yeah.
Come on in, Edwin. You can join us too.
Come on. Hey, shit. Come on.
Got it going? Yeah, it's going.
Come on. Talk to.
We've kind of gave Edwin the business earlier.
Oh, didn't Edwin make Lyle's first braces?
I think so, yeah.
And his little crutches.
Yeah.
Edwin's the guy that got Lyle going.
Doc Rich,
With Dr. Rich.
Yeah, he said Will, don't put him in a wheelchair.
Yeah, we were all of us bound determined. He's never going to see a wheelchair.
Yeah. It's in a wheelchair. He'll never walk. But if you put him on crutches, then he will. I mean, he'll be able to get around better.
I remember his mother used to have him on the ironing board.
Oh, yeah.
And rub him with glycerin or something.
Uh-huh.
That's the way it seems to me. That's what I remembered. I don't know what it was.
I don't know what she used. But
I wasn't very old.
No. And, of course, one thing we know is that there was always a great deal of desperation about what they might do, just like people who have cancer nowadays. It's what can we possibly do?
And it seems like they had him on the dining room table when they made those plaster of Paris casts.
Probably.
If that was to make his braces or what. And I always had this weird thing that they were going to saw into his knee. They had a saw there.
Oh, I know what that was. See, his legs got bent.
Yeah.
And then they tried to straighten him out. And they put plaster Paris casts on. And then every day they'd have to push that down so that it would be open just a little tiny bit, like a quarter of an inch or so. And every day they'd have to keep pushing that down a little bit further until they got it down.
Yeah.
And still, then afterwards, they had to operate on him and stretch those cords.
Yeah, that was during the time he was in high school. I think he went to
And he came home from the hospital, and Edwin came up to him. Everybody was tickled to see him. And Edwin put his hand out to shake hands with Lyle. And old sport come along, and he took a hold of Edwin's hand and pulled it right down.
Yeah, that's right.
He wasn't going to let anybody get close.
Old sport has not been too much of an object of our discussion. I do remember one time when we were taking the cows across the road, he got hit.
We crawled under the corn crib.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept coaxing for him to come out. And finally, one day I got him coaxed up close enough that I could put some peroxide on his foot.
Yeah.
And he let me do that. Then after I finally coaxed him out, I put his food a little bit further away, and then I worked on his foot and took that infection out with peroxide.
Is that right? You know, he limped around for months and felt sorry for himself.
Yeah, and then it comes pheasant season. And I take him out with a gun and walk him down the field.
Yeah. Yeah, our dad invited him to go pheasant hunting the first time. That's when we found out that would be the thing that he wanted to do, and then you could get him out there.
One thing I remember is when they found some whiskey in a bottle down by the road, and they put it in a pan and gave it to him.
Yeah.
And he got tipsy.
Yeah, he really got tipsy. Because that was not too unusual. That quarter of a mile of road that we had on Highway 18 was always a receptacle for partially used or empty bottles. And then the fact that there was loose gravel up at the corner, somebody was always on our fence.
Well, we all had a pretty good idea.
Yeah, well, of course, there were some people coming through too who were not accustomed to the road, and they'd come down that hill and let it be split, hit the loose gravel ones. Yeah, there were several times when they rolled. Yeah, it looks like it.
I'm hiding behind that flower.
I'll go over here. I think that's probably the reason why.
That's good.
Now we'll see if
now you probably can't see it.
Our camera can see you.
If it can see Eva, that's all you need. She's got her hair fixed and I haven't.
I washed it.
I didn't. Oh, I was going to. I guess I'm glad I didn't.
Is it still working?
Oh, yeah, it is. I don't understand all I know about this thing. The little thing is clicking and saying light, so apparently this thing that needs more light. Well, I think what we'll do then, we'll just call the game because of darkness.